Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I hope you're having a fantastic day. As the title suggests, in this video, I'm bringing you 12 gameplay tips to help you dramatically improve your skills in Wo Long and just help you have a better time with this already amazing video game. So let's jump straight into number 1, and this is how to more easily get the jump on and backstab enemies. Did you know that whilst you are blocking, you will move slow enough that you don't trigger any detection? And if you quickly spam holding and releasing the blocking, like so, you will be able to close the gap with enemies very quickly whilst still staying undetected. Just be careful you're not doing this too frantically or they will detect you occasionally. But as you can see here, it works 99% of the time. And some enemies are particularly fast and it's really hard to get a jump on them during their patrol routes because they turn around and change direction pretty damn fast. So use this hold and release block technique and you will be able to backstab nearly every single enemy in the game. This second tip is for people that are just generally having a tough time with the game. Morale rank matters so much in this game. And for anyone that doesn't know, your morale rank works effectively like a second player level, specifically for the stage you are currently in. So most main missions you will start at morale level 0, side missions will vary, and if an enemy has a significantly higher morale rank than you, no matter how leveled up your actual character is and how good you are at the game, you are going to have a very tough time. Morale rank affects the difficulty of levels more than anything else, more than your build, more than your character's level, and as your morale increases, so does the damage you deal, and it reduces the damage you take. If you go back to the start of a level at morale level 20, you will find you one-shot almost every single enemy that was posing you a threat just 5 or 10 minutes earlier. So, if you are struggling, make sure to just run past all the enemies that you're having a hard time with at the moment and go and seek out battle flags and marking flags. You want to grab every marking flag as soon as you see them. However, hold your horses on battle flags. In just a few tips time, I will show you how to utilize battle flags the most efficiently. And if you're finding that there are just not enough marking flags and battle flags around for you and you're still struggling, this is another amazing tip that I used myself while getting to grips with the game. Simply go to an area that you have been able to deal with, clear out the enemies, go and rest at the nearest battle flag, clear them out again, go and rest again, clear them out. You can see where I'm going with this. The more and more you grind low-level enemies, the more it will increase your morale rank. Just bearing in mind, if you do die, it will go back down to the base fortification level. But in theory, at the start of every single level, if you are struggling, you can literally just grind the easiest enemies right at the start of the level until you hit morale rank level 25, which is the maximum, and then the rest of the level should be an absolute breeze for you. As we're on the topic of grinding out low-level enemies, that ties us perfectly into the next tip, which is all about companions and tiger seals. Now, I know this next tip won't be for everyone because some people do love to solo the entirety of any Souls-like games. I totally get that appeal, and I do also love going through the levels by myself afterwards. However, for the purposes of this tip, make sure you are always traveling with recruitment companions. I will come on to the specifics in tip 4. The reason I mention them for now in tip 3 is because they are going to make the game easier. And tip 3 is all about grinding out tiger seals. Now, you get tiger seals in a few different ways, but primarily you get them for avenging other players. Every time you come across an enemy and you see their morale level has a purple glow around it, this is an enemy that has slain another player, and you will be rewarded some tiger seals for defeating them. Why are tiger seals so important? I'm glad you asked. That is because this is the currency required to recruit both AI and player companions to help you out in these levels. So, tying in with tip 2, whilst you're grinding out low-level enemies to build up your morale rank, you can also seek out revenge enemies and take them out so you can get a nice stock of tiger seals going. And as we're already on the topic of companions, that ties us in very nicely with tip 4, as we talk about Cups of Cordiality and some of the other bonuses that they offer you. All AI companions will start with a bond level of 1. This will naturally increase as you do battle with them. However, you can give them all cups of cordiality, which will give a huge boost to their bond level, just like that. You'll find a few of these cups scattered around levels, but the primary way to earn cups of cordiality is through completing titles. Titles are kind of like in-game achievements, such as defeat 100 bandits or loot 50 chests, things like that. So for the most part, you will just be naturally completing titles as you progress through the game. Get enough, your title rank will increase and you'll be rewarded another cup of cordiality. Then come into your recruitment menu and give that cup to whichever companion you want to. This is exactly why in my previous tip I was saying you want to fight with companions even if you don't usually. It's not just to cheese the game and make it easier, there is a legitimate reason. There are many amazing armor sets and weapons tied behind companion levels. Let's skip forward in time here, and I have just got Zhao Yun up to the maximum companion level. He is now my sworn brother. We will now rest at a battle flag and check our deliveries. Zhao Yun has rewarded me with a replica of his entire armor and weapon set, and every single one of your AI companions will do this for you when they become your sworn brother. Yes, that means you can rock the armor of Liu Bei, Cao Cao, every single character in this game. Their weapons and armor can become yours. And that, my friends, is why you need to always travel with your companions. And as I've just received this armor set, that leads me perfectly into tip number 5, and that is how to check your bonuses. This isn't immediately obvious, however, on the equipment screen here, I'm going to press square, or I believe it would be X on the Xbox controller. And here I can cycle through all of the different bonuses I am currently receiving from my various weapons and armor. And if I tab over to the end screen here, I can see specifically the bonuses that are being bestowed upon me because I am wearing Zhao Yun's armor set. It's really good to get familiar with this screen because you want to know exactly what bonuses you have and how best to utilize them. We will come on to how to manipulate all of these bonuses in just a minute, but I have a couple more important tips for you before we come on to that. Next up, we're finally going to cycle back around and talk about battle flags. Now, the reason I said to use battle flags strategically is because unlike bonfires or sites of grace in Dark Souls and Elden Ring, they will restore all of your health and healing, yes, but they do not respawn enemies when you activate them, only when you rest at them. So, if you are good at this game and very efficient going through every level, you can, in theory, activate every single battle flag to keep yourself topped up on healing and potions, whilst never ever having to rest at one. Therefore, the entire level will be absent of enemies because you have gone through and killed every single one of them and you have not rested, therefore they haven't respawned. One of the amazing bonuses of this is if you do happen to have missed a marking flag or a battle flag somewhere, you can then run back through the whole level completely unharmed in search of that final flag. Just so you're aware, marking flags will fully heal you and your companions, but they won't restore your healing flasks. So you can still use them fairly strategically as well. If you spot a marking flag and you've got a tough enemy around the corner, go and deal with the enemy first, then come back and top off your health at the marking flag so you don't have to waste a healing potion. But as I say, battle flags are an absolute dream in this game. The fact that they will fully replenish everything just for activating them, whilst making all of the enemies stay dead. As you can see here, I will now rest at this battle flag, and sure enough, all the enemies have come back to life. But going all the way back to tip number 2, this is an area I'm very comfortable with. So if I want, I can now grind all of these enemies to my heart's content to increase that morale level and make the next section of this stage much easier. So there are so many ways to manipulate flags and the environment to make this game way less daunting than it initially seems. I'm going to try and keep this as spoiler-free as possible, so all I will say to preface this next tip is that eventually you will unlock the hub area, and it's at that point you will unlock all additional shopkeeper options. Until that point, try and refrain from selling anything, because as soon as you get here and the blacksmith options are opened up to you, you will now be able to salvage. Salvaging equipment is so much more efficient than selling it. By salvaging equipment, you will get an amount of jewels. Along with this, in rare circumstances where the weapon or armor you are salvaging has a particularly rare gem or already has some upgrades, you will also get that gem and a few of the upgrade materials. Whereas if you were to sell it for copper, that is literally all you would get. You will lose out on everything else. You can also hold down triangle on the PlayStation controller or Y on the Xbox controller to mass select a whole bunch of weapons or armor so you can salvage them all at once rather than having to do it individually. So what I tend to do is sort by rarity and then just mass salvage anything that is 1 or 2 star. Now, once you've finished salvaging everything, before we get onto gems and upgrading, you are going to need a lot of cash, because gems in particular require an insane amount of copper, and you've just salvaged everything, so you haven't sold it, so you haven't made any money. However, now you can sell a few of your excess jewels. You will get literally thousands of jewels for salvaging all your gear, and jewels sell for so much more than the gear itself would. I've got 1500 jewels here. I'm going to sell 1,000 of them, and there you go, I've now got over 2 million copper. This is a way more efficient way of making money than just selling things. And now we have loads of upgrade materials, loads of gems, and loads of cash. It is time to make the armor set of our dreams. And don't worry, you can be very frivolous and just upgrade everything. You get plentiful resources, plentiful gems, plentiful copper, so you can go absolutely wild with upgrading and experimenting with everything. So my next tip when you're looking at what gems you want to add to your gear is, firstly, of course, we're going to want to choose a decent build. The 5 main stats are based around the 5 Chinese elements. We have wood, water, metal, earth, and fire. I strongly recommend picking and sticking with 2 stats. You don't want to spread yourself too thin, but you also don't want to bottleneck yourself into one particular stat. Because when you come across stages where most of the enemies in that stage are resistant to the one stat you have focused in, you are going to have a really bad time. So try and be a bit versatile and focus on 2 at once. I'll come into what all the stats are and what they do when we look at wizardry spells. The reason I mention it now for this tip is just so you can keep your stats in mind whilst you're choosing your gem slots. As you can see, there is an absolute ton of gem slots that you can pick for your gear, ranging from increasing the damage or the spirit damage you do, to increasing how much chi you gain, or how little chi you lose when you die. You can also increase the accumulation of all of the different positive and negative effects. The possibilities for your gems are endless. So I strongly recommend focusing on 1 or 2 particular things and doubling down on them with your gem slots. I am more than happy to do a few build videos if people want to know how to min-max and be as OP as possible. I am currently running a water metal build, and my water wizardry spells are so insanely powerful because of my gems. I'm focusing on extending my positive effects so that my buffs last longer, of course maxing out my ice damage as much as possible, and building up that chill accumulation and negative status effects as long as possible on my enemies so they stay chilled for longer and take maximum amounts of damage from my attacks. So experiment and go wild with all of your different gems and gear. The possibilities truly are endless, and if anyone comes across anything particularly powerful, please let me know. I'd be very interested to hear. Before we move into the last 2 tips, this next one may be the most important by far. Did you know that many people who watch my videos and follow this channel regularly still are not subscribed? Just simply clicking that subscribe button and clicking the thumbs up whilst you're down there would help us both out tremendously, because it gets my name out there and it ensures that you're notified every single time that a new video is ready for you to watch. Also, I want to give a shout out to all of our patrons over on patreon.com. Thank you so much for your continued support. You're absolutely amazing people, and please look out for new rewards coming soon. Now, let's have a good look at wizardry spells and everything that the 5 elements have to offer. I've tried to do a really quick, simple breakdown for you, so let's blitz through the main 2 or 3 points that each stat has to offer you. When picking wood, you can expect high HP and high spirit defense. The wood phase is focused around lightning attacks and healing and resistances. Wood is a really great stat to spec into if you are a beginner to Souls-likes, because it's going to be the one that gives you the most health and therefore is probably the most forgiving. Next up, we have got water, which is all about high ranged damage and stealth. There are, of course, a few melee weapons that benefit from water as well, such as the scimitar, which is what I'm running on this build. And water is focused around ice attacks and increasing your own mobility whilst reducing the enemy's mobility. Next up, we have got metal. Metal is great for maintaining your spirit gauge and making your wizardry spells very cheap. Metal is definitely the perfect spellcasting spec, as it is focused around poison and toxic attacks, and its main buff is that it will increase the duration of all of your negative debuffs. So if you find a way to work all 5 debuffs into a metal build, you can basically perpetually keep all enemies chilled, burned, poisoned, on fire, you name it. The next phase is Earth, and this focuses around high defense and high equip load, meaning you can wear the tankiest armor sets in the game while still rolling around very quick and nimble. And Earth brings to the table stone attacks and many spells that will increase your defenses. If you mix this with wood, you will be a really tanky boy. And last but certainly not least, we have got the fire spec. This is all about high melee damage. It of course employs fire attacks and a very high risk, high reward style gameplay, with big damage spells that will increase your damage output, but also your damage taken. Fire is the most risky, but the most rewarding spec to play. That is an overview of all the different wizardry specs and what you can expect from each one. There are some insanely powerful spells late game, and if you do focus around the wizardry aspects, it will be tougher in the early game, but you can absolutely melt so many enemies later on. I am also going to be carrying on my Wo Long playthrough live over on Twitch, so make sure you go and follow if you're not already, and we can learn it together and just have a good time while we do so. My final tip is something Elden Ring fans will be very happy to hear, and that is that respecking is free and infinite. Imagine having infinite larval tears. Again, you do need to have the hidden village unlocked, and you do need to have a certain character unlocked. You will see the door is open in this main building here, right in front of me, right by the battle flag. When you can enter here, you'll be able to interact with the NPC and respec freely. What is even better than Elden Ring is that you don't have to reallocate all of your levels. If you want or need to lower your level for any particular reason, you can bank levels. It won't give you the chi back to spend elsewhere, but the levels will stay banked and you can reallocate as many or as few as you want, which is really good for people making meta builds at specific levels. I think it is really going to help the PvP in this game, the fact that a system like this exists. And that is it. That is the end of my first guide for Wo Long. Please let me know if there's any specifics you would like me to delve into, whether it be boss fights, build guides, elaborating on any of the mechanics even more. Whatever you would like, I shall do my best to oblige. And my friends, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.